10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hi, this is day 56 of me identifying as a puppy, and everything's been great so far. There are a few downers, though. My mom is now allergic. Go figure. And some stores are still not allowing me inside. There's still a little puppy phobia. We're going to have to re-educate. Puppies are humans, too. Good news is that Purina Pet Chow has reached out to me to be a spokespuppy. Hopefully they don't receive the same backlash as Bud Light. I'd hate to destroy a company, but I would love all the money and then take vacations and make more TikTok videos talking about how oppressed I am as a puppy. I swear to tell the truth. The whole truth. Not my truth, and definitely not your truth. So help me God. Welcome to a very special episode of The Truth with Corban. As you can see, I'm not in my studio for episode 2. This is the bone room. It's my dad's masterpiece. Everything in here is dead, bone. Can really affect your allergies. But I'm embracing my heritage. That's the new necklace and the headbands. Although this is probably made in China, but it's the thought that counts. I hope you enjoyed this episode because I interview my dad later on. Let's get to the weekly news. Let's talk about Russell Brand. I used to despise Russell Brand. He was not my cup of tea. I did think he was somewhat funny at times, but very promiscuous and addicted to drugs. The drug, sex, rock and roll thing as a comedian. He did it without the rock and roll. But the left was on his side at that time. But then he turns his life around. He's not addicted to drugs. Clears up, becomes spiritual, gets married, and is about to have his third child, and all of a sudden the left wants to turn against him. Why do the allegations come out now and not when then? I mean, he was pretty open about, almost too open about his sexual life then. And it's not like these women are coming out on their own. They're directed to come out. Even a former ex-girlfriend of his said she was reached out to for stories. These aren't people coming up and saying, believe all women, and they want to tell their side. No, they're being approached saying, we'll give you some money if you come up with something. Now, whether it be true or false, that's not my place. That's not anyone's place. That's not YouTube's place either. And YouTube demonetized Russell Brand based on allegations. In my opinion, I think YouTube is criminal in this. You cannot penalize someone for allegations. Because innocent until proven guilty. You don't prove innocence. You are innocent. And anyone says that we have more obligation to believe the women, you're wrong. These are accusations. You don't have more obligation on either side. You have to take it at face value and say, I believe neither until it's proven that there's a crime. You can't say, well, I believe this person over this person. You can, but you'd be wrong by doing so. There's right and wrong. And thought and accusations are not right and wrong until they're action. And you have to find out that action to know whether it was right or wrong. Because these accusations could be lies, which would be wrong. Or the accusation could be true, which would make him wrong. I side on the side of innocence from the get-go, because that is what we're supposed to do, and you're supposed to prove the guilt. You do not prove innocence. You just are. Now, it's strange to me that right when he starts telling the truth, journalists reach out to ex-girlfriends for stories. Coincidence? No. Speaking of right and wrong, you have to watch this clip I don't know if this is a real doctor, but she's wearing like a lab coat with a name on it, and she's got rainbow hair. And she's talking about how it's acceptable to call people pregnant people instead of just mothers.
All you Karens out there who have your panties in a bunch about the fact that doctors are starting to use the term pregnant person instead of pregnant women, I want you to listen up. Women are people. Non-binary people and trans men are also people. So this term includes everyone that was born with a uterus and could be pregnant. It has nothing to do with not being a feminist or protecting women's rights. We want to be inclusive to all people born with a uterus.
Okay, listen here, my little phony, or rainbow not so bright. You have no idea what you're talking about. You should lose the PhD if you had it. People are male and female. It has nothing to do with thought. It literally has to do with biology and who can have babies. And females can, and males cannot. And then they'll say, well, some females can't have babies. Does that make them not female? No, that means something went wrong. If a female cannot have a baby, that means there was an error somewhere along the line in that person's life. If a male can have a baby, that means something went wrong somewhere in that life because it's not natural. Do you get the logic there? Because men can't have babies and women can. And I say men and women because gender isn't thought. It's language to describe male and female. You should not be a doctor, which I think you're just a pretend doctor on TikTok. So I don't really care that you want to call them pregnant people. I care that you're trying to control language to where we have to. You can be stupid if you want to be stupid. I don't want to be stupid, so therefore I will continue referring to them as mothers. Well, it's offensive. Not to everyone, which means that I'm right. If I can say one thing to some person and they say, yes, I am a mother, thank you. And then to the other person they say, how dare you? That's on them. That isn't on me. That's why there is no such thing as hate speech. Speaking of phony, did you see that a boy won homecoming queen? Yeah, you heard that right. Which proves that the patriarchy starts early now. Men are better at being queens in high school. I would say I'm shocked, but I'm not. This is that anomaly must win factor. It's like, has nothing to do with talent in a talent show now. It's based on whether or not they have some sort of handicap and can somewhat sing. The person who's very good will not win, but the person who can kind of carry a tune, but they have cerebral palsy, they're a shoo-in for victory. This is that anomaly must win factor. They've been doing this a while, except it used to be, let's give the prom queen and the homecoming queen to the fat chick. That was the trend. And then it was like, let's give it to the girl with Downs. Not to be mean, but it's a patronizing, we feel sorry for you, here's a trophy. And that's what the world has become. It's not even everyone gets a trophy anymore. That's what it used to be. Everyone's included. Everyone gets a trophy. But now it's everyone that should get a trophy doesn't. And the people that shouldn't get a trophy do. That's wrong and should not be the case. There's no point to strive for anything anymore. There's no, I need to be better. Now it's like, well, I want to win. I need to be worse. That's sad. And if you want to see something else sad, watch this clip of Joe Biden.
Let me be clear. Certain principles of our international system are sacrosanct. Now, even as we evolve our institutions,
I have something really important to say about what you just saw, and I want to make sure you hear it and understand it. So pay close attention. The Haverbakken on the Swiverbush on the Kevernevel. Okay? So the moment everybody's waiting for is what I hear from my Instagram. If you don't follow my Instagram, you should. It's thetruth.skycorban. That's where most of my stuff will be published. But let's get to the interview with my dad, Spotted Hulk. Here we go. We are broadcasting from the bone room. No innuendos. That's just what it's called. I'm here with the Hulk, a.k.a. Skid Row Joe, a.k.a. my dad.
Spotted Hulk.
Spotted Hulk. The
right.
older you get.
Yeah, more spots,
Right.
man, you understand?
So I would like to introduce him. He's been a preacher for a very long time. I won't call him a pastor. It's too proper and formal.
Yeah, it's more of what I ain't.
Yeah. So.
It conjures up all these ideas of suit and tie guy, you know,
Mhm.
and which is all right, but it's not me.
It looks like you conjure up some things in this room.
Yeah, well, I'm still kind of a semi-retired hippie, you know, so.
You want to give a little bit of your testimony of how you became a preacher? Because you've done some things in your past before I was born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a rock and roller and played in bands and stuff like that, and got in with different groups, and finally you get better and better and the bigger groups, and they end up backing up some nationally known stars, internationally known stars. I'm not going to go into who they are right now, but
Britney Spears was one of them.
No, I didn't know the girl.
No, you didn't know her.
I didn't like the way she wore a mic out there. I didn't like that thing.
No.
And no, Percy Sledge, the Shirelles, the Drifters. I was just the guy in the background backing them up, playing guitar. I think Jimi Hendrix backed him up one time, and he just couldn't
He
cut
backed
it.
up Percy Sledge.
Yeah, he was Percy Sledge. Yeah, he backed up Percy, and he couldn't cut it. So
No, you had to take his
I had
spot.
to take his place. He just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Those 3 chords just really messed him up. Of course, I lived the drug, sex, and rock and roll lifestyle, because when I wasn't backing them up, we was playing some hardcore rock and roll, Led Zeppelin, stuff like that. But we was just their backup band. So we got into all that, and my life just went. How would I say this without saying a cuss word?
You can say
it went
cuss
to
words.
hell.
Yeah.
And so when I got down on bottom, there was nowhere else to look but up. When I looked up, there was God. And he wasn't frowning like I'd always heard growing up in church. My dad was a preacher, and I was preached to me like it was preached to the Native Americans: love God or burn, that type of thing. And so I couldn't love somebody I was scared to death of. You just can't do that. So instead, I hated, and
You
ran from and everything else. But I had that calling on my life, and you can run far as you want to, but if he's gonna get you, he's gonna get you.
If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I met your mother,
Mm-hmm.
and she had come to the Lord first. She came down to New Orleans and found me where I was playing in a band down there, but I'd gotten so far down low I couldn't even play anymore.
Mm-hmm.
She came down. God did a miracle letting her find me and all that population down there, and started talking to me about the Lord. I came back, and I went to a church that day, and I've never been the same since.
I never really thought about this before until now, but you probably traveled more from being sort of a youth evangelist preacher than you did in music.
Yeah. I even said that. I've said that to God one time. I said, and I told him that I want to play to more people for you than I did for the other
And you
side.
did.
For the other side.
colleges.
Oh, way past.
I mean, when I was younger, I went with you pretty much all the places.
Yeah. I remember we would go to some pretty cool places, man. Like what was that place up there in not Branson? Well, we went there too.
Covenant College.
Yeah,
Covenant College is beautiful.
Man, it was up on top of a mountain. Remember, we came into
That's
town.
Chattanooga.
I said, "Boy, what if that's where I'm playing?" And pointed at the thing.
I know, and it was.
And that was it.
And it was steep.
And Liz Taylor had stayed there.
Yeah.
At one time, she wasn't there. They were.
God rest her soul.
Yes. Anyway, so it came to the Lord. Been doing that ever since.
You also played in Waco.
Yeah, right. Right on from where it all happened.
You did a college. No, Baylor. You did
Baylor College.
Yeah,
it was about,
and he lost me.
Oh, that was one of the worst things. My
You forgot
grace alive.
me.
Well, I wasn't used to you going over that one to me. Now, I went over there and was all enthused, and I was talking to about 800 students.
Yep.
And then I got ready to go, and there's all getting me to sign their things, and I was getting some tapes and giving them stuff, and so I just got my car and went back over to.
He left me.
Went back to the motel, and Sharon said, "Where's Sky?" And I like to have died.
Yep.
I like to have died.
Just left there.
I took off across that campus, and the cop stopped me, said, "Where you going?" And I said, it was a lady cop. And I said, "Man, I lost my son. I got to get him." And I just left her there with the car and took off running across campus. She was like, "Hey, stop slime ball and stuff."
I'll shoot.
But I just kept going.
Right.
And there I got over there, and there you were sitting on the front of it, just sitting there. What was you thinking, man? I never ever asked you that.
I was just sitting on the steps. I remember watching these school things that said don't go anywhere, like when I was a kid, and they're like, if you get lost, just stay put, find an adult. And it's like, it really depends on the adult that I find.
Come here, little boy.
I'm just going to sit on the steps.
I'll help you.
So I was pretty clever.
Oh,
I was like 9.
Thanks for bringing up a painful memory,
Yeah.
man. I think about my mama being dead, you know.
Right.
That was
Let's talk
that was
about
a
that.
terrible one. Man, I'm really
That's
that
a
was
microphone.
Oh, I'm not used to these things, man. Sky's used to it now.
Mhm.
My mic's always out in front of me like that,
Yeah.
you know.
Do that again.
Out in front of me like that. Shut up. I'm gonna hit you with my cane. You know where I got this cane?
Where?
I made it. This is
Okay.
this is a hog tusk,
Mhm.
wild hog, and varnished it and shined it
Right.
up and everything. And my mama had a pear tree in the front yard. She loved that pear tree.
Mhm.
And I was looking for a crooked stick.
Yeah.
And so I saw one day, and it was her pear tree. So I went and cut it down, and then I asked her, could I cut it down?
Mhm.
That I asked her after I had already done
Done it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she was not pleased with it, but it sure made a good stick.
Ask for
man.
forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Mhm.
Kind of like it is with God.
Right. Let me tell you what it is. Well, I got asked on my Instagram from a person who didn't believe in God if I could prove God's existence. If you prove it, then it's not faith, but
That's
I'm
right.
still going to try.
Give it a shot. Man.
So I started digging, and I found this Isaiah scripture. And it really,
man,
I mean, I'm going to read it. It says, "For unto us a child is born." If you're thinking that, you already know which child it's referring
well,
to.
you know, in chapter 6, it already said a virgin's going to bring forth
Right.
a child. I mean, here's what's going to happen, so you'll know the Messiah.
Right. And
A
this
virgin is going to bring forth a boy.
is far before Jesus was born. And historically speaking, Isaiah is true. Historically speaking.
Oh, it's in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Dead Sea Scrolls, Isaiah Scrolls, these are discovered and predated, like they're
I believe it's about. I didn't look it up, but I think it's about 600 years, and I might be
Yeah, but
wrong on
it's,
that.
you know,
It might even be 1,000. But I think it's 600.
time-stamped scrolls that are before Jesus Christ.
Way.
And Jesus Christ is historically accurate, whether you believe he's the Messiah or not.
Yeah,
He's Pontius Pilate was real. All these things are
everything
historically
changes.
accurate.
That's right.
So it says, for unto us a child
There
is
was
born.
a Caesar, in other words.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Romans existed. So
they were, and they ruled the roost at that time.
Right.
That's right.
So for unto us a child is born. If you're thinking, you already know that it's referring to Jesus. If you're not a Jew, unto us a son is given from a virgin, previously mentioned.
Right.
And I'm going to skip this next part. I'm not even going to read it. And his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. All those things came true. You didn't need to put the part that I skipped. All that stuff would have been true. You could have left it out and it would still
There
be
was
great
no
scripture.
use in it.
Everybody would have been like, amen, that's true. But this part it says, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. And people can say whatever they want. They can say it means all these things, but they literally put a cross upon the government was literally on his shoulder. And if that does not happen, then his name shall not be called Wonderful, shall not be called Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace.
That's right.
If the government does not put a cross on his shoulder.
And they don't have to get mad if it don't meet with their thoughts. They can find a new thought in it, which you
Right.
did and I'd never seen.
Right. The government shall be upon his shoulder. You didn't even need to put that in there. But this is Isaiah, which is validated through the Dead Sea Scrolls as predated Jesus, saying this exact thing that literally happened.
Right.
Which
Right.
proves they predicted it. This is
What's
projected
that?
reality.
Who's that dude? They always go back and say, "Oh, he said this and he said that," and they dug him up and all this kind of. And on his grave, predicted the day he was. What's his name, man? Oh, I forget. I usually know it.
Jimmy Hoffa.
No, they ain't found him yet. But he's supposed to be this great prophet. He didn't get close to doing this.
No, not at all.
No.
This was so, everything that was stated in that came true. Do you have Psalms?
And the government owned it. Yeah, I got, what?
Psalms 20?
Yeah, Psalms 22.
22?
Psalms 22, yeah.
That one.
It just starts off. You thought you were reading what Jesus was saying on the cross.
You would read it and think that you're reading Jesus's words. It starts off, "Oh God, why have thou forsaken me?
My God, verbatim, why have thou forsaken me?" And that's 1,000 years before.
And also, the #1 cited book of the Torah from Jesus himself quoted Psalms more than any other book.
I know. It's an Old Testament.
So he knew what he was going to say on the cross.
And later on in that same chapter, it says they gathered around and gambled for my clothing, for my robe. And they did. Mm-hmm. Then they had no way of saying, out there, we'll just fulfill Scripture. They're just doing it.
Not only that, King David prophesied about Jesus and the lineage of David being blessed, right?
Right.
David's blessing, right?
Right.
That his
Abraham even said of Isaac, you're going to be, that's where the Messiah is going to come.
Exactly.
And then David, same thing.
And then it led to Jesus Christ. That lineage from David goes to Jesus.
And there's let me tell you something, it wasn't a wonderful virginish lineage either. It was some rough stuff in there, man. It was, some children in the woodpile there that came by. And Isaiah, 53. Isaiah 53, I think it's 53, not 51. It just describes the crucifixion. Here's
directly.
He's going to be bruised for our iniquities. We're going to be nail him. We're going to do all these things to him. And he's going to take on to us the iniquities of us. It just described. There it was. And
exactly
Isaiah,
what happened.
Scroll thing.
Exactly what legitimately happened. And the Jewish people are like, that's not him
because we're doing it.
Well, yeah, exactly.
We did it, so we don't want to believe that.
If you believe the Torah, then why did you skip over the part that was predicted the most?
Yeah, that did happen. Well, that's just somebody that
he was a rebel.
It was a big coincidence.
Yeah, that illustration, you got a guy comes up and tells you there's going to be a delivery man come to your house.
Yeah,
he's going to be in a blue van. The blue van's going to say FedEx on the side or something.
Right.
He's going to get out of it. He's going to be wearing a red shirt that says, "Have a nice day." He's going to walk up, knock on your door 3 times. You're going to answer it. He's going to hand you an envelope which has $1 million in it.
And it's been predicted. That's what's going to happen. That's how you're going to know it.
And you're waiting, and you see that blue van come up with FedEx. You see the guy come out of it, and he's got a shirt that says "Have a nice day" on it, and he walks up, knocks 3 times. You open the door, and he says, "Hi, I'm Gary." And you go, "Well, they didn't say his name was going to be Gary."
Hey. I can't accept this $1 million.
This can't be it.
I'm going to leave a dang thing in the envelope. I'm not going to do it.
So no offense to the Jewish religion, but who else are you waiting on at this point?
He ain't coming.
He already passed.
That's right. He's coming.
He's coming again the second time.
You get a second chance.
Yeah.
That's right.
If you are of the Jewish religion and you believe the Torah religiously, because that's what you believe.
Yeah.
Isaiah's your guy.
That's right.
Abraham's your guy.
That's right.
David's your guy.
We had a guy named, I won't say his name.
Yeah.
But it was Mike Grodowicz.
Yeah, I remember.
He's a good friend of mine. He was a Jewish. It made me proud, boy, that we had a guy that was Jewish and yet believing in the Messiah and knowing a great Christian guy. But most of them, when you say this and they hear this, they just get infuriated at you.
The thing is, they believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
They do. They don't believe Jesus is the Messiah. They believe he was a rebel that came against the Romans, which is also true.
Some might listen to this go, you know what? He's right. But there's more than likely any of them that listen to it. You know why? I hate to say this. God has to open their eyes to see. Yeah. You just can't do it on their own.
Why do you speak in parables?
Right. He said, "Why do you speak in parables?" And everybody said, "So everybody can understand." Ain't what he said?
No, what he said.
He said, "So you can understand." The ones that ain't supposed to understand speaking parables, so they can't. Because if they did, I'd have to save them. Mm-hmm. That's what he said. People
He
don't like
used-
Matthew 13, folks. Go look it up.
He used a question about a parable to say another parable,
Right.
which is just genius.
It's just wonderful. Well, that's not fair. Well, he ain't fair. He's God. He's king. You know, he's a benevolent, merciful, kind, wonderful king. But he's king.
You
And
can't
I bowed
do
down
this.
before
This is my message to everyone who's listening, who might believe this tactic. Don't. You go to church and you say, "Almighty God," and you sing "Mighty God" and "Almighty this," and so you are
He's
sovereign.
almighty. He's sovereign.
But then when you make a mistake, you're like, "The devil got me." Or if you do something good, you're excited for yourself that you did something good. That's excluding God on both.
And you know what? When I was going through all the hell I went through and causing all the hell and hurt and pain and doing all the drugs, everything I did, God knew exactly when I was going to come to him later on. And I'm going to use that in his life. How you explain that, I don't know.
He used
How you put a tree in the garden, tell them not to eat of it, and then when they do, you knew they would and planned accordingly.
Yeah, if you want to get into first Adam, second Adam, we can. But
We ain't got enough time, man.
but it's just like when too many people go from themselves to God instead of from God to themselves.
Yeah.
You start with God and you come back to you, and they go from you to God. Everything.
I wrote a song that said, Moses didn't say, "Now look here, God, Pharaoh's coming, I'm going to hold out my rod. You got to roll the Red Sea back. You got to jump when my faith whip cracks." It was God's idea. Moses just trusted greatly. Anybody seen old Pharaoh lately?
Right.
It was God's thing. It's God to men, not men to God.
It's always that way. I mean, look at Abraham. He used Abraham to go toward Egypt, to the king. All the bad things he did led to good things.
God, what we're saying right here, there's people out there might fight it, but somehow deep inside they know it's truth.
It's true, because Abraham sold his wife to a king. The king gave her back eventually, but traded.
Yeah, because they all got the sick stomach.
Right.
And he said, "Get out of here and go back in here. Take all these servants with you," which one of them was named Hagar.
And Hagar and Abraham led to the Muslim religion.
Because she couldn't have babies. She stood
Ishmael.
in for him. Yeah, Ishmael. And she stood in. Sarah's right there proving so they can have a kid. And Ishmael came out of it, and that's where the
Muslim religion came from, all the way from Abraham to Ishmael and on through.
Both of them started with Abraham right there.
Both of the Christian religion and the lineage of Jesus and the lineage of the Muslim religion.
And little Ishmael, he came out and he was the chosen one. Oh yeah, he's the great one we've been looking for, the one. And then all of a sudden Sarah, 100 years old, gets pregnant anyway, has another one, which is a miracle baby, and they just kind of put him aside. No wonder he's still griping about it. He said, "I'm the chosen one." And they're still doing it today, but it was still God's choice to choose Isaac, and you can't help it. Well, that ain't fair. It doesn't matter. He's God.
I know.
He's right, no matter what he does. That's pretty good preaching, Sky. You know what? We ought to go in some kind of ministry together.
Yeah, just talk the Bible. Bible talks in the bone room. I can't understand how people can hear these words and still go, "Well, it's me," or the devil.
Yeah.
He used a pagan to get his way.
What's that dude's name?
Cyrus.
Yeah.
Who didn't believe, and he clearly stated, "This guy doesn't know me." He's a pagan, and predicted everything that he was going to do, and he did it anyway.
And he didn't know he was doing God's will. And that's what's going on today. Oh, this is good, Sky. That's what's going on today. All the people just trying to get prayer out of school, and they just don't like God, and they're getting rid of him and everything else. They're just fulfilling Scripture. Because Jesus predicted it would be this way. That's what they're going to do.
Let's get into fulfilling Scripture. I say this all the time. People will say, I'll ask the question, "Well, did Judas act in free will?" And they'll say,
"Oh my gracious, we've been open a can of worms here, ain't we?"
And they'll say, "Absolutely, it was his free will to betray Jesus." And I said, "Well, then you can't believe God sent his only son to die on the cross then."
Yeah, that's right.
Those two things cannot be true at the same time. He did God's plan.
The Bible calls him the son of perdition.
His free will that he had was to not go through with it.
Yeah.
That was his free will.
And at the Last Supper, Jesus gives him a sop. And everybody says, "Well, he gave him the best part of the wine, just show how much he loved him." You know what he said to him? what you must do quickly. You got to do quickly. And Judas wouldn't did it because he just couldn't help it.
You know why?
Why?
Because Jesus read Psalms.
He was Psalms.
He was Psalms.
Right.
He's like, I know what's coming. I've read it.
You got to do it.
You got to do it.
God wrote a book. He wrote a book. It's called the Book of Life, and you're going to do your part in it. I got my part. I'm doing.
So Judas and the devil, actually, people like the devil wanted God on the cross. Devil wanted God off the cross. Come down from there.
Didn't he did all the way to Jesus carrying that cross up the hill, the devil right in his face saying, drop the cross. Don't die. He'll you to kill him any other way you want to, but not on a cross.
But when he tempted Christ, when he tempted Jesus,
yeah,
he told him to kill himself.
Oh, he wanted him dead, but not a cross.
Right.
Because he knew the devil.
Because the devil also read Psalms.
Yeah. He knew exactly what was going to happen. And he was trying to stop the cross. And then he wanted to stop the resurrection, and there was no way you could do it.
Mm-mm.
It just happened.
And then pour
enough to putting a big stone and sealing it in front of the tomb, and it like that's Jones.
Pour the doubter.
Uh-huh. Thomas the doubter.
Thomas the doubter.
Got a bad rap, man.
Reasonably skeptical Thomas. He's like, nah.
Yeah, and not only that, he was the only one when the rest of the disciples hiding. He wasn't there because he's really kind of brave. I ain't hiding.
I know.
I like Thomas.
I do too. And he's known as the doubter from here on out for going, I don't know if that's true.
When I see him resurrected, he shows me the scars and stuff, and
Right.
I believe it. And then Jesus ain't there when he says it.
Mm-mm.
But when he gets in there, Jesus said, come here and look at this so you can believe now, man. And you know what Thomas fell down? My Lord and my God.
Mm-hmm.
Everlasting Father.
That's not much
My
doubt.
everlasting Father, the mighty God.
Reasonably skeptical Thomas.
I love that. I love that. I'm reasonably skeptical. Right. I am at times now. I question. Somebody said you can't question God. That's the silliest thing I ever heard.
Yeah.
That's the only one's got the answers. He said, ask and you'll receive. He didn't say you'd receive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. People, he's a rewarder of them that diligently seek him.
The reason, if anyone ever tells you not to question God, it's because they have an agenda that they're wanting you to fulfill.
You know what,
listen to me instead.
You know what, Sky's, I'm spotted talking. You know what Sky's Indian name is? You're not going to believe this.
He asked me what I wanted it to be.
I wanted to be, give me his Apache name,
Like,
and I wanted him to be, like Bacho the wolf or something. You know what he said? Beaver's mustache. So
Beaver's mustache.
He's Beaver mustache. And he said that when he was like, what?
11
years old. He decided he was Beaver's mustache, which ain't got anything to do with
noble.
Which has nothing to do with the resurrection, except it had to be that way.
It had to be that way. That's who I am at heart.
You know what? Baptists won't be crazy about us, and I'm Baptist, but Presbyterians gonna love us.
Right? Yeah,
they gonna love this.
Some Calvinist probably.
If A.W. Pink is jumping up in his grave,
Yeah.
That's right. This has been fun.
Any last words before I kill you?
Yeah. Nawacha oba. Chana niha. And that means God has been kind and merciful to us, and we love him.
But in Apache, he wasn't having a stroke.
I wasn't going Pentecostal on you.
Yeah, it wasn't in
that
tongues.
was an unknown tongue. That was a known tongue, but not to many these days. But it's been great, Sky. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem.
I love you.
Love you too.
He's my son,
A little bit.
You've been knowing me all your life, ain't
I've
you?
known you a majority.
I've known you all my life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not all my life.
That's not you. No.
No, we're getting lost here.
Unless you're a prophet. Anyway, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Bible talk.
Nice to meet you.
Random Bible talk. And if you know the show, you know that I end every episode with an original song, except this time I'm not going to sing one of my original songs. I'm going to sing one of my dad's original songs. So I'm going to send it over to me.
This is a song I wrote several years back when at one of our universities here in the South, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And when one of our major atheists came to speak there,
At the time.
Yeah, and she's, God not rest her soul, she's not with us any longer. And but
Universe rest her soul.
yeah, maybe and so she was saying all her blasphemous things that they always say, And then she was what one young girl did when she was given just a pause to say something.
It's a storyteller thing of the whole atheist preaching.
It's wonderful because it's a true story, and I don't know the girl. I don't know her name. I wish I did. I would just call her and tell her how much I admire her.
And I'm going to play the recorder.
Yeah, don't do that.
3 cheers for the nameless one, who will stand for the Holy One and hold his banner high in the very face of the lie.
There was a deathless stillness that crossed the crowd as a lie, boisterous and proud, she strutted forth and unashamed began to blaspheme God's holy name. Why, if God is real, the lie exclaimed, why is there yet poverty and war and lame? And if he would just send some kind of sign from above, then even I would worship your God of love. They were faithless points, but hard to refute, and the audience was speechless when the lie was through. But from out of the stunned silence, a small frame stood, and with a voice that was not great but good, it was trembling yet strong somehow. She sang out bold and loud, stand up for Jesus, ye soldiers of the cross. Lift high his royal banner, it must not suffer loss. She was standing alone like the martyrs of old, but then slowly, all that crowd arose and began with her to sing along the glorious lyrics of that old song. From victory unto victory, his army shall he lead, till every foe is vanquished and Christ is Lord indeed. The face of the lie grew ghastly pale. You're all fools, the lie cried, and fools will fail. All but ne'er greater fool could ever be than to witness God's side and still not see. So 3 cheers for the nameless one, who will stand for the Holy One and sing a battle cry in the very face of the lie. So 3 cheers for us nameless ones, who will stand for the Holy One and sing a battle cry in the very face of the lie. Back to you, Sky. I appreciate it, Sky. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode where I got to interview my dad and we had some biblical discussions. Tune in next week when I interview Donald Trump himself. That's not true. Please don't fact check me.